All right. Hello, everybody. Thursday is here, and I am going live every Thursday, as you know. So, today we are going to talk about inflammation. Such a big topic, right? So, I will try to keep it short, and I will try to keep it in a small bite size that you can start implementing things that we're going to be talking about today in your life, starting today or the next time you go to grocery shopping, so that you have idea what foods can trigger inflammation in your body, and what foods you need to implement into your diet to make sure you don't have one. So so stick with me till the end, and at the end I will give you a guide for 14 anti-inflammatory foods that you can buy today and start eating it and start implementing it to make sure that you don't have inflammation. So, what is inflammation anyway? So, I'm pretty sure you heard about inflammation before, right? And in the in the long run, it's a good thing. You know, it's a natural response of our body to protect us from harm. And acute inflammation is really good for us, because if you cut your finger, that's when inflammation begins. So that more forces can body can bring to that point and make it heal faster. That's what inflammation does. But inflammation becomes really dangerous when it's chronic. So, what's the difference between chronic inflammation and acute inflammation? So, acute inflammation appears and then go away in a short period of time, when the chronic inflammation is a constant response of the body, because it might be something that you eat that triggers that response. And think about it as you have this white blood cells in your blood that are basically always protecting you from harm, right? And it's those blood cells are in your bloodstream, in your blood. So when you, for example, have a reaction to a certain foods that might be high inflammatory, these molecules from these foods can enter the bloodstream through the lining in your gut, and then when it's there, it's not supposed to be there, and so that triggers the blood cells response, because they cannot recognize it as something that belongs to bloodstream, and so they start reacting. And if you continue eat that type of food that causes you this reaction, that you set in your body to this high inflammatory state all the time. And we now know that there is a thing called leaky gut, even though commercial medicine does not accept it as a legal term yet. But in naturopath medicine and functional medicine already know that is a real thing. And so what leaky gut does is basically that the lining of a small intestine becomes really weak, and the villi is supposed to be tight. So villi is this like a fingers of the lining that are absorbing the nutrients from your food, and so they have to be really really tight, sealed together, in order to filter them, like they wouldn't let bigger molecules to enter the bloodstream. And so when someone has a leaky gut, it means that they eat highly inflammatory foods that causes the villi go a little bit shorter, or they make up the spaces between, so the more molecules that are not supposed to be in the bloodstream can enter the bloodstream, and so that causes the inflammation. So you can see that all of this really really connected. So when we talk about human body, from the functional point of view, we want to treat it as a whole system. It's like all of the systems, all of the body systems are interconnected, and of course everything begins with a digestive system, the foods that we eat, the foods that enter the body, in our digestive tract, whatever goes to our gut. This is all related. So let's get back to the inflammation, right? So So why inflammation is so important? Because in the long run, it can actually causes a chronic illnesses, and it can begin as some skin eruptions or something that we are not really like ready to pay attention to, something small, or maybe allergy, or like, okay, allergy cannot really kill me, right? Yes, it's uncomfortable, but so it's something that I can live with using my allergy medications. But actually, it is means that something is going wrong in your immune system. Something is not right. Something body is trying to tell you something about yourself and trying to draw your attention to the problem. And the same with the skin. So if you, for example, if you have acne or if you have skin eruptions, that might be an indicator that you have some inflammation going on, and there's something in your gut that needs your action. So that's why it is really important to always pay attention to the signs, or like rash on the skin, right? So this all of the signs can give you an idea that something is going on. And then if you don't take care of this signs early enough, and if you for example take care only of the symptoms, but you're not looking in a broader picture, in a wider spectrum, like what can be a root cause of this, and you just treat in the symptoms. Let's say you have a rash on your skin, and then you go and get the ointment, and then you put the ointment and the rash is getting better, and you're like, okay, that's fine then, right? So but actually what triggered that rash was like in your gut, and it's still there, and you didn't address to it. So then it is more likely that it either will come back, or it will turn into something bigger, and then something that you can't ignore anymore. So it's really better to address the issues right away and look deeper if you have something. So so the inflammation. Let me see my notes. Okay, so the inflammation causes this like free radicals. I'm pretty sure you heard about free radicals before, and usually it is used in the context of talking about cancer. But cancer, it is already like a last stage of the inflammation, so that's what it can cause, right? Well, the free radicals are coming from the certain type of foods, which are called highly inflammatory foods. And I will talk about those a little bit later, so stay with me. And so what can fight those free radicals is the foods that antioxidants, has a lot of antioxidant food. How many times do I need to say antioxidant? All right, so antioxidants is the components of the foods that can find free radicals and fight them, because free radicals, there is something like, if you remember your physics lesson in the school, it's like the electrons that are in the atoms and the molecules, they always have the positive and negative charge. So the free radicals, it's the ones that have only one charge, like it's either positive or negative, and they're like that's why they're free. And so they are highly explosive or highly volatile. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. So it can explode really easy, or it can cause the electric charge, right, in the electron. So the same thing happens with the free radicals in the bloodstream. So they are highly charged. So if something triggers it, then it causes the inflammation right away. So everything explodes, right? So what we really want is to implement foods that has this ability to fight these free radicals and take them away from the bloodstream. So like I'm gonna show you today what are the foods that can do that, but also you need to make sure that you're not taking the highly inflammatory foods, or that the foods that you eat has to be clean, organic, because if you eat conventionally grown vegetables, for example, you also inject whatever toxins they might have, from the pesticides or herbicides that that used to grow them, and so we really want to avoid that. And remember, last week I was talking about cleanse, and I was talking about why the cleanse is important to do from time to time is because we actually exposed to so much more toxins in our lives today than we used to. And so our body has a natural ability to detox, but it is just too much. And so when we are going back to talk about foods, we really want to make sure that we give to our body the best we can get. The areas we can control, like we cannot control what air we breathe or the water that is into our that runs in our faucets, right? But we can make sure what kind of food we eat, and we need to make sure that we eat the best kind of food, so that we are not putting much more pressure than we could, right? So so back to the anti-inflammatory diet, and I'm gonna tell you guys that I am just a huge fan of anti-inflammatory diet. I used to have a condition. Well, I mean, any chronic conditions, you're gonna still have it, but you can just work on it the way that it's not affecting your life anymore. So I have PCOS, which is polycystic ovary syndrome, right? It was like, what it stands for. So I have PCOS since I was diagnosed when I was 19. Now I'm 31, and so my periods were always all around the place. And I went to the doctors, and they did the hormone tests, and they said that my hormones are fine. So they didn't know what to do, right? They were like, okay, your hormones are fine, so just go back home and do whatever, right? Nobody actually addressed to the underlying issues that it can cause it until last year. I found out about anti-inflammatory diet, and I wasn't sure that I have inflammation or not. That's how big is that actually in our lives, because we are so used to be in this like constant inflammatory state, we don't even know about it anymore. We think that it's our normal state when it's not. So it turned out to be that I was in a constant inflammatory state. When I started eating anti-inflammatory diets, like implemented anti-inflammatory diet in my life, for 2 months, I was actually able to reverse my PCOS. The next ultrasound that I've been doing with my doctor, they were saying that the ovaries are clean. And that was a huge, wake-up call. And then analyzing everything. Okay, so yes, with the female, like the woman's health, yes, there's like certain things like hormones, and there's also other root causes that can be in place, like the women's health is directly affected by a gut health. So in every other system is connected to the gut. So what we want to make sure is that we keep our gut healthy. How? By eating a certain types of food. And I'm going to tell you about this anti-inflammatory foods that since last year, always in my diet, that I make sure that I always have those. Because I've seen the results, and I've seen the change in my health. Also, I'm going to give you another example. So my husband has been diagnosed with arthritis in 2008, I believe. So, and he was 30 years old at that time. So he was pretty young man, right? And to be diagnosed with arthritis, which used to be believed would only affects like more senior people. So it was shocking for him, and then he went through all kinds of treatments, and he did all kinds of stuff and took the pills that were like killing him. Um, and so when he was taking those pills, he actually made a decision that he's not going to be on medications all his life. So what he did was he decided to change his diet. And so naturally, like with his intuition and whatever knowledge he could get back then, he decided to reduce red meat intake, reduce alcohol intake, and he started juicing, and he started making this like shots of ginger. I have to ask him what was exactly, but I think it was like a shot of ginger juice with cayenne pepper, and so he would take that every morning. And within a couple months, he was feeling so good that he didn't need to have his medications anymore. And ever since then, it's almost 10 years now, he's off his medications. He is generally healthy. His arthritis is still there, but it's not bothering him anymore. And so all that he could do with simple diet, and so can you if you have any of those like chronic conditions. And so did I with my PCOS. So let's get back to the anti-inflammatory foods. So the anti-inflammatory diet has been created by this the guidelines has been created by this Dr. Andrew Weil, and I really respect his work. He's an amazing doctor. And I'm going to be sharing with you guys this week his a food pyramid for anti-inflammatory diet, so that you have visual of what you can implement in your life, of what needs to be more, and what you can enjoy in a small amount. So basically what he was saying is that you need to bring as many different kinds of fruits and vegetables as possible, especially focusing on those that is like dark leafy greens, like let's say kale. My personal choice is that Tuscan kale. I love it. Then chard or beet greens, stuff like this. So any of the greens. Then also cruciferous vegetables. I think I'm pronouncing right. So it's the broccoli, it's the Brussels sprouts. So any of the like cabbage family vegetables. I'm a huge fan of cabbage. So also different kinds of fruits, and like a huge attention was to bringing in fatty acids like omega-3, because omega-3 is actually fighting inflammation. Omega-3 and omega-6 are important, but omega-3 reduces inflammation, and omega-6 can trigger inflammation. What we want is the balance of two. Right now in our diets, the ratio is like 1 omega-3 to 20 omega-6, which is too much. In the perfect conditions, it would be like 1 to 5. Like it's all right. So we need to aim for those. And we have omega-6, abundance of omega-6 from the oils that we use, but we actually deficient in omega-3. So make sure that you implement omega-3s in your life, and that could be in the form of wild caught fish that has been living in a cold environments. like Alaskan, for example, because the fish that lives in the cold water produces much more of this omega-3 fatty acids. So you want to make sure you eat those. Also, it can be flax oil or flax seeds. Those are who are vegetarians or vegans. Those are like go-to choices for them. And also fiber, lots of fiber. Did you know that standard American diet is actually deficient in fiber, and that in order for us to get our daily normal size of the fiber is about like 15 grams, I think. I need to make sure of that. But we don't like Americans in general consume something around 5 grams per day, which is really low. So how can you bring more of fiber in your life? Well, there's oatmeal, there's whole grains, beans and legumes are very rich in fiber, but also as the vegetables like celery, like leafy greens, anything that is really like chewy, so that you can so that it's not broke down completely in your stomach, and when it passes through small intestine, the villi will take out the nutrients that they need from that, but the fiber will actually enter to the big intestine, so that this food is for your probiotics, the bacteria that lives in your gut. So we need to make sure that we have that, because one of the things that can actually help you to reduce inflammation is if you keep your gut healthy, they will make sure that the beneficial bacteria that live in your gut, if there is there's supposed to be more of the beneficial bacteria than the pathogen bacteria. Pathogen bacteria is those bad guys that causes different illnesses, or like can cause you diarrhea or stuff like that, or salmonella, right? So we already have them there, but they are under control of beneficial bacteria. So that's what we want to keep. If you suspect that your gut microbiome is unbalanced, then the best way you can go is to start giving those little bugs foods that promote beneficial bacteria growth rather than the pathogen. What the pathogen loves, like deep fried foods. They love high carb foods. So if you really want to make sure that your gut is healthy, reduce intake of those kind of foods and bring more fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, fibrous foods, and healthy fats. So those are one. And so what I was promising you to give you a list of the best anti-inflammatory foods. So here goes. So there's 14 of them, and I will give you I will make a post maybe today or tomorrow about, so that you don't have to memorize it from now, but I will write it all down, and you will have a list of those anti-inflammatory foods. But for now, it is like avocados. I'm gonna look at my notes. So there's avocados, fresh berries like strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries, broccoli or any cruciferous veggies like broccoli, then dark chocolate and cocoa. Who would have thought? I personally love cocoa and I love dark chocolate, but it wasn't been like that always. And my favorite chocolate was milk chocolate. Now I am asking myself, like, why? Dark chocolate is so much better. Then extra virgin olive oil. But remember that you cannot cook with olive oil, because when you cook with olive oil, it becomes it creates more free radicals actually. So make sure you only consume it raw. Then fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines. Grapes, green tea, mushrooms, onions, bell peppers, but that is questionable. Okay, I'm gonna tell you why. Walnuts and watermelon. So yes, while bell peppers have a certain powerful antioxidants, it is a part of nightshades family. And nightshade family of the vegetables is well known for promoting inflammation rather than reduce it. So be careful with the bell peppers. I would say if you like bell peppers and if you don't have reaction to it, just add it occasionally. Or if you, let's say, go on a like very clean diet and then try to implement like the kind of diet I am going to do with my people on cleanse program. So if you do that kind of diet and then you implement just to see, just to make sure you don't have any reactions to it, implement the bell peppers and you see how do you react. So that way we can do, because I know that because I love bell peppers, but my husband cannot tolerate them, so we kind of like eliminated all the nightshades including bell peppers, and feel good for sure. Feel good. So again, like, you eat foods that are good for your body. You explore, you eat those foods and see how do you react. And if you don't have any reaction, then I don't see why not. Like, why not keep eating them? But if you have a certain reaction, or if you have even a little doubt that this food caused you something, then maybe you shouldn't eat it, or maybe try to go without this kind of food for a while and see how you're gonna be. So the next thing is, so you heard, right? Like, all of these foods that are rich in antioxidants, actually very available in the market, and they are delicious. So the choices is not that if you start eating healthy that you're not gonna be eating good foods. I mean, a tasty foods. It is that you're not probably gonna be eating the foods that you get to used to eat and that you think that is good. And so if you go on a diet and you start eating more of this like anti-inflammatory, highly antioxidant foods, and then you feel better, believe me, if you try your burger again after, you will feel so bad, might feel bad, that you won't be wanting to get back to that type of diet. And I'm telling you because I've been there and I experienced that. Okay, so even though these foods that I just told you about, you can get in any time at the supermarket, even go today or right now after the live, or just make a list for your grocery shopping, because planning is the key for healthy eating. There is a certain types of spices that you can actually implement in your everyday life that will reduce inflammation for sure. And these spices are ginger, turmeric, cinnamon, garlic, black pepper, cayenne pepper. And my favorite are turmeric and ginger. Literally, we eat it every day. I cannot live without ginger, and I even make a turmeric latte with almond milk, which is amazing. And I'll probably share this recipe with you this upcoming week, because you just need to try it. It's super easy to make. It literally takes 5 minutes, and in anti-inflammatory, what can be better? All right, so you now know what kind of spices and what kind of foods do you need to implement into your diet to be able to reduce inflammation in your body. Now let's see what kind of foods you should avoid. Well, first of all is processed foods, like any processed foods, even if they have the cleanest ingredients list, better to avoid, because whatever has been processed has been processed. And I'm all about whole foods diet, one ingredient, 3 max. Okay. Then foods with added sugar or salt, and we see abundance of those in our supermarket shelves. Refined carbs like white flour, table sugar, and high fructose corn syrup. So even if you must buy processed foods, read the labels and make sure you don't have high fructose sugar. That is like number one no. It is highly inflammatory, and it also creates an addiction. Next, excess of alcohol. I think no-brainer is here. Alcohol is good in the small amounts. Even in an anti-inflammatory diet, it is all right to drink red wine, because it is believed to have strong antioxidants. But also the red wine needs to be consumed in moderate amounts. Next one, fried foods. And we are talking about deep fried foods. And we are talking about oils that you use to fry those foods. Most of my clients have this, they don't know about oils or stuff like that. So I'll be sharing that with you guys, just because I want to make sure that you're using the right kind of oils for whatever needs that you need. Needs that you need. All right, so the fried foods, margarine, no. Red meat, you can enjoy red meat if you like it, in moderation, just like in alcohol. But excess amount of red meat can cause inflammation. That's for sure. And soda or other high sugar beverages. And again, because it's sugar, and sugar is a highly inflammatory ingredient. So if you want to make sure that you're not triggering inflammation, always read labels and see that it wouldn't have as much sugar. So I'm not saying that you have to like get rid of the sugar for 100%. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying is that you need to make conscious choices about what kind of sugar do you eat. And also, when you buy a processed foods, you have no idea what kind of sugar was it. It can be the cheapest, the most processed version of it. Like we're talking about table sugar. There's safer versions of sugar, like organic cane sugar, for example, or like demerara sugar, or like dark brown or melassa or stuff like this, like more natural choices. But also my favorite is honey. It is still sugar, but it's natural form, so it is easier for body to break down, and it's not causes as much blood sugar spikes as the white refined table sugar. So there are foods that are might be causing inflammation, but not for everyone. So that could be artificial sweeteners, dairy, food packed in BPA lined cans, because BPA is a highly inflammatory thing. Well, in fact, we all have to avoid that. Then gluten can be certain people can have gluten reactions, certain people have intolerances, certain people have wheat allergies. All of these are three different things. And so you need to make sure that you're not celiac, or you don't have a wheat allergy. If you do, then you need to make proper choices with that knowledge, because you can't just ignore this. So another thing is that, yes, there's a healthy people who can tolerate gluten, but also it is recommended not to overeat it, right? And also, if we're talking about bread, which is everybody like staple food on the table, right? And if we're talking about, like, now there's so much noise about gluten-free and gluten breads, the safest choice for your bread you can make is to get sourdough bread, because I already had the post about what sourdough does versus to yeast. And the sourdough breaks the gluten to a smaller, more bioavailable, more digestible pieces. So, all right. Also, talking about oils, seed or vegetable oils such as sunflower, vegetable, or canola oil. Those are highly processed foods, highly processed oils, and you really want to avoid them as much as possible. Likely for us, we have abundance of better choices, better oils, and yes, they are more expensive, but believe me, you cannot just ignore this one. So I'm gonna be doing the post maybe later this week about oils, so that you have a better picture of it. And I'm hoping I'm not confusing you right now. And the last one is the nightshades, the one that I was talking about. So the nightshades vegetables is the vegetables that has very high protective what do you call this reaction. So the seeds are actually kind of like poisonous to eat, because the vegetable want to protect itself from to be eaten. So not all the vegetables are like to be eaten. And those nightshades family is like extreme on those protective mechanisms. So those can be tomatoes, eggplants, potatoes, and bell peppers. It can be also tobacco and goji berries. So those are the things that you need to be aware of, and see if you have any reactions to it, because you might not even think like, oh, like you love potatoes or you love tomatoes. Like I love tomatoes, but I don't eat it as much anymore. But you just might be eating these foods that causes you inflammation, and you can think that it's healthy food and it's good for you. What you need to do is to explore. Is it really good for you, or is it not? And so the best thing that you can do that is to be curious, of course, and try to like listen to your body's intuition. But also I invite you to take a further step and enroll into my Reset Cleanse. This is exactly what we're going to do. So as I already been told, I told you that we are going to do like 1 week of hypoallergenic diet, when we get to take away all of the foods that can cause a reaction. And then the next week we're going to explore by bringing them back and see, do you really have that reaction or not? And so that after this program, you will have a better picture of what foods causes you reactions and what not, so that you can make more conscious choices after. And after that cleanse program, we can also talk more about individual meal plan. So reach out to me if this is something that you're interested in, and I hope that this information was helpful, because I know that there's a lot of noise in online, in internet right now, about all of the foods that, or what you need to eat and what you should avoid. But my opinion on that is that only you know what exactly you need to eat, and only your body, your unique body, can tell you what it is. So all you need to listen to is your intuition. And so during the cleanse program, we are going to tap into intuition more. I'm going to be talking about what effects our subconscious mind has on our decisions, and how can we deepen the intuition, and how can we start really listening to the signs of the body. And it's just, it's so important that someone can give you this like shortcut of the things that you need to get. So from one point to another point, like I can take you there in 2 weeks. If you do it on your own, you will get there, but it might take you longer. I was doing on my own before I became a health coach, and it took me about 2 or 3 months. And even like things that I've learned over the course of 1 year, I could have that information already like in 2 weeks if I would choose to work with someone. But back then, I didn't even know about that this exists, that this information is out there, and that I can use it. So I think we're lucky here. So if you're ready to make these choices, if you're ready to tap into your intuition, if you're ready to explore what kind of foods do you need to eat to make sure that your body is not in a constant inflammatory state, click the link, sign up for my detox program, for my reset cleanse. That will be in March 16 to March 26 or 29, sorry. So that we will be exploring all this together. All right. So next week, I'm going to have another topic for you, and I'll see you next Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you for watching, and give me some hugs, give me some thumbs up, give me some love when you watch a replay. I really would like to hear from you, and comment below if you have any questions. All right. Thank you so much for your attention. Bye.